So I wanted to present an idea, coin a term, I guess. And this is something that I think anybody can go through, no matter what your political persuasion is, or your gender, or your religion, or any way that you like to live. It's an idea about how our basic moral framework can crack and eventually crumble and fall away in our life and allow us to believe dangerous or flawed things that will lead in the end to dark and even evil actions. And the term that I'd like to present is the Harrisian Collapse. It's something that I've spoken about in previous videos a handful of times, but I've always edited out. I didn't want to, pick on or call out this particular person, but I think it's a great example of the kind of moral compromises that can just go too far and damage our soul. There's an intellectual, an atheist, who I guess in previous years has been a little more popular or has gotten a little more play in our media and social media. His name is Sam Harris. As I said, he's an atheist and has a lot of criticisms for Muslims and religion in general. And he's a very intelligent guy, right? He likes to meditate. And so usually for a lot of his career he's been pretty calm and organized with his thoughts and has wielded powerful ideas and expressed them eloquently. But I'm not exactly sure when it was in the last few years. He had this particular moment, a moment that showed the moral collapse that had happened within his soul. And again, he's an atheist, so maybe he wouldn't recognize anything like a soul within him, but we all have a space for meaning where the soul resides. It's a question of what we fill that space with. And so this man, Sam Harris, was on a podcast and was pressed about the current leader of the United States, and very quickly just spiraled into a conceptually horrific crash into smoldering rubble. And I don't know that his career has ever been the same since. He is one of these talking heads, these people, these intellectuals that clearly is suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. And it doesn't matter whether that's a diagnosable condition or not. It's an obvious concept, I think, to anybody watching some people talk about Donald Trump. And again, Trump derangement syndrome is really, at its heart, it's not actually about Donald Trump. It's about some unintegrated part of a person that in many cases can't accept certain parts of masculinity, can't accept some realities of power and hierarchy and how that functions in the human world, and has let some of those refusals to see what is true corrupt them deeply. I've seen Trump derangement syndrome in my own family. Well, it was a few people in my family that every time I saw them for quite a while, they would say something about Trump. And I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not sure if I would have voted for him in the last election, probably not. But I could see why people did. I can see why he won in the historic fashion that he did. And I can see what he represents, right? Again, this is not just about Trump as a man. He's a symbol, and that's why some people love him so much and fight for him. And that symbol is so deeply offensive to some people that they will throw out all morality. And so in Sam Harris's case, his Trump derangement syndrome bloomed, manifested on this podcast. And he was talking about Biden, his son, Hunter, and that controversy around some illicit material, information that was on Hunter's laptop. And the conversation came to, what would you sacrifice? What would be worth not allowing Trump to get back into office? And Sam expressed that even a compromise of democracy, right? The very thing that characterizes our current political system, at least it's supposed to, ideally, be a way for people to decide what is important to them, what their values are, and elect someone that represents that to speak for them and to help shape their country. And Sam was willing to excuse any kind of conspiracy, to excuse, at his lowest point, he expressed, even the dead bodies of children in a basement. He would be willing to excuse that kind of heinous possibility to make sure that Trump didn't get back into office again. And it exemplifies this thing that can happen to anybody at any point when they go too far in one direction in their thoughts, in their beliefs, and believe that one person or one group is so evil that there are no sacrifices that should be too far to stop that evil. And we've seen this in woke culture. We've seen this on the left, as has been stated across social media and on my channel a few times with the celebration of Charlie Kirk's death. And that is disgusting, and it's disturbing, and it should be disturbing to every human being, right? Most human beings, vast majority of human beings, value human life. But there are reasons that creep into that space where a soul resides that makes it dark and then darker and darker and becomes a sickness at some point that can produce what seem like acceptable excuses to compromise the sanctity of life. And I'm sure as soon as Sam's said even the dead bodies of children are a worthy sacrifice to stop Trump getting into office, I'm sure he felt an immediate regret for expressing that. But as the conversation unfolded in that podcast, I don't think he felt regret for suggesting some sort of conspiracy that went beyond the standard democratic process to stop Trump getting elected. That opinion didn't change. But that's another line that shouldn't be crossed. That exemplifies a dissolving of basic morality. And we just have to be careful in this very tumultuous time where things are changing so fast. Be careful to not let our basic morality dissolve because we see something that we disagree with so much, something that we identify as evil that must be vanquished. We all need to be careful of that disaster, the Harrisian Collapse, because anybody is vulnerable to it. And especially as emotions are high over these next weeks and months, while Charlie Kirk's death is still fresh in many people's hearts, there is a great risk of what would otherwise be noble and fair civil citizens of the West to make that compromise, to allow that evil to creep into their heart. People can celebrate Charlie Kirk's death and they might lose their job, and maybe that's okay. Maybe they deserve that. Maybe that'll give them a chance to reassess their values, to try to look behind their mask for a moment, even if they didn't know they were wearing one, to try to see the humanity in every other person, no matter what values and views are expressed. But where it gets really dangerous is when people are not only celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, but are actually explicitly calling for the death of others, of other people that are speaking their truth, that are sharing their values, that are maybe strongly, fervently debating, but only fighting with words. On the right, that spirit of vengeance is definitely, I think, close to the surface for a lot of people. It takes a lot for a person to become an evil person. And maybe there is no such thing. I'm not so sure. But there are definitely evil concepts, like shooting someone for expressing their views. I'm not a pro-gun advocate or a pro-gun control advocate, but that part of a person where they build their meaning can motivate anybody to take a life. And if a person is motivated in that way, it doesn't matter what tools are available, whether it's a gun or a knife or a homemade bomb or a vehicle or even a person's own hands and feet. If a person undergoes that kind of thing that I'm suggesting is a Harrisian collapse, they can cross that line. If they don't see how far they've fallen and catch themselves, they can cross that line. And horrible things can happen. So let's all, within each moment, continually, as we strive towards truth, as we fight the good fight, continually make sure that we're checking ourselves every day. Look in the mirror and make sure that we are aligned in a balanced way. It's difficult, it takes repeated effort, and it's something that requires us to strive our entire lives. But it makes the good fight a worthy endeavor. So, good luck to all of you in that process, and let's find a way to talk to each other again, to see each other's humanity, and love a little more. So, peace, and I'll talk to you again soon.